welcome to More Up North. I'm Shannyn Moore, and I'm really excited to get a chance to talk to Mike Mason. He's a 27-year oil industry veteran who worked on oil rigs at BP facilities on the North Slope of Alaska. And in January of 2005, Corporate Crime Reporter ran an article detailing Mason's allegations of BP's cheating on blowout preventer tests. As you know, the blowout preventer test that apparently failed on the recent oil rig disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. And at the time, Mason was working for Nabors Alaska Drilling, a BP contractor on the North Slope. You were fired from your job at Nabors Alaska Drilling in July of 2006, 4 days after you wrote a letter to the editor of the Anchorage Daily newspaper. Well, curiously, that editor is on the show tonight. You might want to take him out back. No, I'm so glad you're here because there's a couple things I think. You're making a lot of national news right now. Of course, your testimony has been part of the hearings in Congress. They're trying to figure out, oh, how could this have happened? Like it hasn't been predicted for years by yourself, people that worked like you in Whisleblower, and people like Chuck Hamill, who has really been sort of the captain of the whistleblowers, the Pied Piper, if you will. But I don't think people are understanding what it is to be in Alaska and have a slope job. Can you talk about that a little bit? These are good jobs.
Oh, very good jobs. They've even got better. They pay more now than when I was there. And in fact, when I got fired, they got a raise 3 weeks after it, and they named it after me because I was the only one that didn't get one. But yeah, you're working half the year. You got 2 weeks off with your family, and a lot of the workers now are younger guys that never made money like that, and they're not willing to give that up, you know.
Right.
And they'll do whatever it takes.
Right. So basically, you were a 2 week on, 2 week off guy.
Yes.
So you'd go work for 2 weeks. You get overtime. You had good wages because of, well, the location is way up there. And then you'd come home for 2 weeks, spend it with your family. You didn't have to worry about fish prices. You didn't have to worry about a lot of the variables so many Alaskans have to. These are really coveted jobs, and they don't have to hire Alaskans.
No.
So the fact that you're an Alaskan that had one of these really good jobs, I think it was just like you and Todd Palin.
Yeah, pretty much. Which he has a cabin on my creek too, so we're pretty centralized.
How nice. And you both, well, he worked for BP for 18 years, and now Sarah works for BP.
Yes.
Drill, baby, drill. So, well, it'd be hilarious if it wasn't true. So here you had this great job and a coveted job, and I don't think people realize that for you to blow the whistle on these fake tests was your whole world could crash really quick. Why? First of all, what was the test that they were doing, that they were faking? What did it mean, and why did you tell?
The test they were taking, our integrity test, as far as the integrity of the BOP says, the blowout preventer system.
Right, the system that if it blows up, kills the people working there sometimes.
Right, it's a safety valve, basically. And when they would test these BOPs, by state law, they have to test each valve for five minutes at 5,000 pounds per square inch pressure. And what they would do if the state regulator or the witness for the state wasn't there was they'd have these charts that were paper charts with an ink pen on them, and they would pressure up to 5,000 and then wait about 30 seconds, and they'd wet their finger and put it on that chart and turn it ahead 5 minutes. Then bleed the pressure on and go to the next one. And they would do that. Of course, it takes a certain amount of time to do this, so then the next thing they would do is falsify their books, make it look like they did it for 4 hours and go work on something, scrub the rig, work on a piece of equipment that needed to be worked on or something, then they go back to doing their job, or split the people up and start drilling and the other ones work on it, and not have this amount of people you need for each job. And they did it quite regularly. I'd say, probably half the time, pretty close to it, because the state would...
How often do they have to do the test?
Every week, once a week, depending on the operation at the time, for when, if they're in an operation where they can't come out of the hole to test it, then they wait until they can. But once a week is the law.
Did you ever feel that your safety was in jeopardy because those tests were being faked? Yes, I've been in a blowout myself. I was on the Steelhead in 1987 for Parker Drilling, and I was there for the whole thing. And what was that like?
It was very frustrating because it was all about ineptness and people that are supposed to be professionals that didn't do their job, and it was very scary. It's the scariest I've ever, I've never been more scared in my life because.
Oh, you haven't been in labor. No, I'm kidding.
That's true.
No, I'm kidding. But I'm like, yeah, fireballs, blowouts.
Yes.
We're seeing this. 11 men just lost their lives, and we're finding out. Well, and of course, you have been out there. Chuck Hamill's been out there. I've talked to him about this for years. Is that the safety of the people working there just really isn't a priority.
No. But
and people don't want to talk about it because these are such high value jobs.
right. But they, BP shoves that safety down your throat until it's convenient for them. The procedures, things like that, the hands are required to write the procedures for their safety bonus for the quarter. So the hands wrote them. If something happens, it's not BP's fault. And that's just a culture that's always been there for BP, and it continues today.
We can certainly see the fallout of that. So tell me when you decided that you were going to tell.
I was involved in a lawsuit over another rig burning down over a tire issue where a tire blew and ruptured lines and burned a rig down in, I believe, 2001. And I had been on that rig, and I was under oath in a deposition, and the lawyers asked me if I'd ever seen a falsified BOP test, hidden spill, falsified records, that kind of stuff. And under oath, I told the truth, and from that point on, I had to protect myself. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. No, so at that point then, you were in a deposition, you told the truth, and you didn't really have an option then.
No, I did. I had to protect myself. And people like Chuck made sure I protected myself. And basically, you got to keep going after them because they're going to get you if you don't,
Right.
And they did in the end, so.
So how did it end up?
I wrote a letter to the editor over criticizing Nabors incorporating overseas to get out of paying taxes and not putting more of a burden on the rest of us. And basically that a private citizen can't incorporate overseas, but they could. And they got an exemption from Congress to use ships in Alaska or in Katrina during the Katrina hurricane. And because of the Jones Act, they used their lawyers and lobbyists to get that exemption.
Shocking.
Yes, and my son is in Iraq, and I say, that he's over there and he's making a commitment that could cost him his life, yet they're shirking their responsibilities as Americans to pay their fair share of the taxes. And I said, forget Benedict Arnold, Nabors Industries is the ultimate American trader, and that's what I got fired for. Because I don't have any freedom of right speech when it comes to a corporation.
Right, but they sure have it over us now.
Yes.
With Citizens
Yes.
versus United. So you've testified on these things.
Yes.
And are you being asked more questions now because of what happened in the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah.